Hello and welcome to Anatomy with Dr. P. In today's lesson, we're going to be tracing the flow of blood through the kidney. So starting out here with our abdominal aorta, oxygen-rich blood is going to enter the kidney via the renal artery. So here's our renal artery here. As the renal artery enters into the kidney, it's going to branch out to form the segmental arteries, because the segmental arteries are going to go to different segments of the kidney. As those segmental arteries travel deeper into the kidney, notice how they start to split and their branches run between the pyramids. Now, if I take a renal pyramid and I take the cortex that's around it, this unit is known as a renal lobe. So these vessels are running between the renal lobes. If we remember from earlier lectures, the word inter means between, and because they're between the lobes, we call them interlobar arteries, literally between the lobe artery. The interlobar arteries, as they reach the base of each pyramid, they're going to split and give off these arching arteries. They kind of arc over the base of each pyramid. These are called the arcuate arteries because they're arcing. Now, the arcuate arteries are going to give off several branches that extend deep out into the renal cortex. Now, these branches are known as the cortical radiate arteries or interlobular arteries. Now, personally, I don't like the term interlobular because interlobular sounds a lot like interlobar, and it's very easy to get them confused. So remember, interlobar means between the lobes, it's these, and we're just going to use the term cortical radiate because these radiate out into the cortex like little bloody rays of sunshine. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to zoom in right on this part of the model. So when we zoom in, notice how I have these little looping structures here. I can see my arcuate arteries separating the renal medulla and the renal cortex. Here's my arcuate artery here separating the renal medulla and the cortex. Coming off of my cortical radiate artery, I can see these little tiny arteries that branch off. These are known as afferent arterioles. Afferent because they are going to arrive at a little ball of capillaries called a glomerulus, which if I look at this part of the model, I can zoom in and see it here. So here's my afferent arteriole coming in. Here's my glomerulus. Now coming out of that glomerulus, I have an efferent arteriole. Efferent, E for exit, because the efferent arteriole leaves the glomerulus. So again, if we go back, here's the afferent arteriole, my glomerulus, the capillary bed, and then the efferent arteriole where blood is leaving. Notice how the afferent arteriole is larger than the efferent arteriole. The reason for that is as blood flows through the glomerulus, it undergoes a process called filtration. So we're actually going to lose blood volume here. Some of that fluid in the blood is going to leak out into this structure and form the filtrate, which eventually goes on to become urine. So because we have less volume, we need a smaller pipe at the other end to maintain pressure in our glomerulus. Now, as blood flows through our efferent arterioles, we now have options. And the two options are we can stay up in the cortex. If we stay up in the renal cortex, we're going to enter into peritubular capillaries. Now, these peritubular capillaries are going to wrap around all of these tubes that you see up here. Remember, peri means around. The other option is we can come out and extend down into the medulla and follow these set of tubes. These vessels that are following the deeper loops are going to be called the vasa recta. Vasa means vessel, recta means straight, because these vessels run straight down and straight back up. So now once we've either gone through the vasa recta or our peritubular capillaries, we're simply going to go in reverse. So let's go into the venous side. Draining the cortex, we have our cortical radiate veins. They're the blue structures you see. They're going to run into these arcing veins, which we call the arcuate veins. The arcuate veins are going to turn down and run between the renal lobes, so we call these interlobar veins. And the interlobar veins are eventually going to merge back together to form our renal vein. The one key difference in terms of venous flow versus arterial flow is there's no segmental veins. The interlobar veins just go right back into the renal vein.